Just a quick thing. I've had to split the episodes into two. So there should have been just the part three, and that would have been it. But I've had to split it into two, so this is 2.5, and then the next one will be three. So this is kind of the next four in the kind of rankings, and then the episode after this will be the final four, the top four teams of Blood Bowl in the rankings. So very sorry about that, but unfortunately my software doesn't let me go over an hour, and as is usual, I rambled on for way too fucking long, so it's over an hour. But yeah, it's not sorry that it's also taken a while. It's been a very busy time, but I'm not going to delay any longer. Here's the fucking episode, alright? I hope that it doesn't get me fucking lynched for my controversy, but here it is anyway. Alright, the Cheese Boys. From here on out, these are like the S tier teams, you know, the competitive thought of teams that people that people generally consider to be the famous Blood Bowl big boy teams, right? And starting us off is the Skaven, and Skaven generally they're kind of notorious in the community for one positional, which I'll get to in a second. But apart from that, as a team, it's relatively well rounded with a big focus on the fact that they have mutation on doubles, which is just really cool and helps round out their weaknesses a little bit. And they have high movement elements, so they can just scuttle around like rats. You know, makes a bit of sense. But that's generally brought down. There we go. Brought down by the fact that they have generally low armor value. So yeah, let's just get into positionals and we'll go through it. Lion-O rats, linemen, whatever, ratos. They are essentially your bug standard, linemen. But as I said, mutation access on a double, and armor value 7, which sucks, but still mutation access. You can give them claws, of course, which claws is the block of the mutation tree. It's that offensive skill that you want to get them in the beginning, really. I mean, it's not all you can give them. You can make them a ball carrier and give them like big hands or extra hands, whatever. You can do a lot with this. They're not limited by any means. They take that lineman kind of basic thing that I've talked about with the orcs and humans of just being relatively shit but easy to build up. But because they have mutations, they can be even more built up. Generally, it's not something you think about in low TV, but if you go into it developing a team for high TV, you can make some pretty damn good builds. And even still, if you're in a league and using a team throughout it and building them up throughout it, you can still make some damn good players if you just think, okay, I'm going to make them with a build in mind. So yeah, linemen, pretty good on this team, just, armor value 7. Throwers, okay, again, standard thrower, nothing really much to say, show hands, pass, like, fairly standard procedure. But again, armor value 7, so just be a little bit careful. I mean, you can base your entire team around them and make them a star player, by all means. But just be careful of armor value 7. Cage them really well if that's what you're doing. Gutter runners, or in this instance, your catchers. These are infamous, right? We have all heard the tales of those one-turn gutter runners, right? And essentially what that is either giving them movement elements plus, which is fucking insane, or giving them a sprint, which means that if they have movement elements 9, right, you do a bit of maths, right? A side of the field is 12 squares, and they have 9, so that means they are one short, right? If you give them the skill sprint, then that means they go to going for it, they get to 3. So going for it normally will get them to 11, but with sprint you go to 3, so you can actually reach the other side of the pitch from the end of your side to the end of their side. Because you don't have to it's not surpassing 12 to get to the 13th square. You hit the 12th square and that is their end zone. So yeah, that, and or you could give them movement elements bonus. I mean, you'd have to roll really fucking good for it, but it's not impossible. I've seen it done, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, you can go really, really fucking nuts with these boys and go for those one-turn touchdowns. That's kind of what this team with its a movement allowance bonus really comes down to is the gutter runner. Or it's kind of the theory that, oh, we could have this weird positional, but that does come at a cost for them, in that they have dodge, which is cool. That's fair enough. That's not a negative at all. But they also have strength 2, which means they are going to be targeted a damn lot. Alright, sure, you can give them block, you know, that's cool, but you know they're going to be the target. You know, they are the snotlings of the team. They are the stunties of the team without actually being a stunter. That's they are the target, right? They're going to get stomped on. They're going to get absolutely murdered, right? So by all means, like be wary. I definitely have them on the team. They're very useful. You know? They even have agility 4, which again, it makes it's kind of that Kislev approach. You know, only have it on the people who need it. Yeah, so just be careful. They're armor value 7. They're fragile, right? You need to give them the love and protection that they need, right? Right. Storm Vermin. Alright, so these are essentially blitzers. And on this team, that equates to them having a higher armor value, you know, armor value 8, which for them it works. Alright, they're going to be bashing around a lot, so they kind of need that. But you know, if you give them claws, yeah, they can be an absolute killing machine. You know, with and mighty blow, they can be you know murderers. And generally, there's nothing really more to say about them. They are blitzers of the rats. That's just how it is. Nothing really more to say. I don't even need to protect them because they have armor value 8. So yeah, just use them. You make sure they get used. You know, take out a bit of their team before they take out pretty much all of yours. And yeah, that's all for them. Rat Ogre. Okay, so this is a weird one. I've seen people say that Rat Ogre is the worst big guy in the game. Although, to be fair, I've heard that about pretty much every fucking big guy in the game. I've seen people say they're not needed or they're useless. But looking at them, they're actually alright. If I were running a Skaven team, I'd definitely consider it. If I weren't going on my, you know, conquest for human glory. But, you know, generally speaking, they're big guy. We all know what a big guy is. You play Blood Bowl for 2 minutes. They have strength 5. Armor value 8, which is pretty low for a big guy. I'm pretty sure that's on par with the Yeti, if I'm not too mistaken. And they're alright. They're a standard big guy. What's weird about it, actually, is that they have prehensile tail, which makes them good against other high movement elements like dodge teams, which is weird because they are a dodge team, so in this instance, Skaven can be out Skaven on a fresh with just having a Rat Ogre, kind of, but whatever. Again, some people don't like bringing a Rat Ogre because they're expensive, but they're not useless, so whatever. Overall, we have a really strange mix of an OG team, but being a really weird team. They're kind of, I don't know, they're all over the place. They're very good all round, generally, right? It's like, yeah, they can get bashed around, and that sucks, you know, they can't really do much about it, but they can get claws, so they can, in theory, you know, take out a Chaos Warrior, you know, or an Ogre, you know, those are on the table if you give them just claws, and with other mutations, you can turn a Gutter Runner into a dodging machine that is just unstoppable, giving them leap. You know, you could give them a long legs and as a mutation, and then because they've got agility 4, that's it. You can just leap out of situations, and you've got a fucking Kislev elf hybrid, a Kislelf, and then yeah. So overall, as a team, very good. They're extraordinary, but there are more that are extraordinary, if that makes sense. So let's get into them, but keep these in mind. They're pretty good. Dark Elves. Alright, so I haven't actually explained an elf team on this series yet because they're all really damn good, and unfortunately they're all in the top 8. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever. But, you know, they're all really good. And even this, which is, you know, in the rankings, the lowest elf team, they're in the top 8 because they are a good team. You know, they're better than most. beginner friendly, not really, but they're a good team. Alright, so the premise of elves is that they are agility 4 humans. And if you want any more information than that, I cannot fucking give it to you, because it would be wrong. Because any statistical difference generally gets contradicted in another team. So you can say generally, they have low armor value, but that's not true in the case of the high elves, which have armor value 8. You can say that they have higher movement allowance, but that's not true because the high elves again have movement allowance 6. Generally, they're a bit slower. You could say, okay, well, they're humans but without big guys. But that's not true because the wood elves have a tree man positional, so they're a bit hard to explain. But essentially, just going off of, just the simplest explanation, elves are humans, but they have agility 4. That's as simple as it's going to get, really. So let's just start with the dark elves. They're the lowest team, but they're good. The whole premise is they're a brutal team, not bashy. Brutal, because they have very unorthodox ways of sending your players off the field, and they're all about that blood in the Blood Bowl, but they also bowl a lot because they've got the agility to throw the ball and what have you. So we'll get into it now. Linemen. Alright, so standard lineman procedure. Alright, but big difference. They have agility access, so you can make what this team lacks. Generally compared to other teams is a thrower and a catcher, so if you want that you can make that without having to roll doubles. That's completely in your range of being able to do. Generally, lower movement allowance, so they're not speedy, but they're average. It's whatever, and generally they're fragile, so be careful. Again, that old thing of, especially with elf teams, a lot of people have been saying that maybe you just let linemen die, use them as fodder, and then journeyman. But I don't think that's right. But whatever. I'm not an elf player. Who cares? Their linemen are good. You can turn them into stuff back like the good old days. Yada yada yada. Let's move on. Runners. Okay. Remember when I said this team doesn't have a thrower or a catcher? This is why. And it's not because he's shoehorning in. He's kind of a replacement for them both. Which is really good, actually. I like that. It kind of changes up the norms. But essentially, as a runner, he has movement allowance 7, which is higher than the lineman, but not higher than everything else. And he has dump off, so he can essentially get rid of the ball if he's getting attacked. So essentially, what this means is, in the ideal scenario of you've opened up a cage and you haven't used your blitz yet, so you're going to go for the ball carrier, you kind of screw yourself a little bit, because then you can dump it off to somebody else, and if they catch it, then next turn they can just run up the field, because you can't blitz twice. You can get people to mark him and make sure he can't dodge out of there, but it's a lot of hassle, and that's kind of what dump off is, a lot of hassle. Generally, you're getting rid of that 2-turn touchdown ability in favour of making it so that your cages are more likely to be broken open because you don't have a big guy or anything like that, but you can deal with it pretty well, and you can dump off. Generally your team isn't full of runners, so you can't just dump off into dump off into dump off into dump off, but you can do relatively well with it. So if you're up against them, mark the people on the outside of the poles of the cage. If you're playing as dark elves, get creative, really, is all I can say. But yeah, runners, pretty good. Can't really fault them. Blitzers, okay. What can you say? Alright, what you can say is that they don't have strength access, which I don't think any of the elf blitzers or anything like that do. So yeah, that's a weird one for a blitzer. But they do have block, so they're not Kislev. That I don't. Anything else is fine. Alright, I don't care if they don't even have fucking general access. Alright, as long as they have block, that's fine. They do the job. Right. Again, they have movement allowance 7, but armor value 8, so they are a bit, bashier. They can get hit in their mission to hit, if that makes sense. So yeah, general blitz procedure. Really happy with that. Even though they got rid of his strength access, that's still fine. happy, loves and kisses. Assassin. So this is a weird one because it's not just stats, it's an entire extraordinary skill. Stab makes it so that it's like chainsaw, but you stab. And I don't know, I've heard people say that the assassin is practically useless, but I haven't really tried it myself. It's a weird one. Look, this one positional, I'd just say look into him, look it up if you're really curious about playing a Dark Elf team and you really want to use them. But in this instance, this is one where I'll say I don't really know much about assassins because nobody really uses them in like the leagues I'm in. So yeah, just be wary. I have heard stories of like putting multiple block on them because they don't use strength. They just do the stab like the chainsaws at the Goblin team. So you can stab into a stab. If like you're surrounded, imagine you just stab into a stab into a stab into a stab, and then you are just taking people out because the whole point of multiple block is that you go down in strength after doing it, or they go up in strength, but whatever. But essentially, because stab isn't about strength, it's just about rolling armor. Essentially, you just and rolling if it works. You can just stab everyone around you and not suffer any consequences. You have to declare it and stuff like that. Again, multiple blocks, a bit of a weird one. But yeah, you can do that. So if you're gonna get an assassin, look, that's definitely a thing to keep in mind. But I wouldn't get an assassin. Again, it's up to you. It's weird. But again, I suppose that's why they're a good team, because it's versatile. It's open for bullshittery, really. Witch Elves are kind of a staple in these teams. I've heard people say they're useless and they're kind of only there for the aesthetic of having like a female on a Blood Bowl team, which hopefully Blood Bowl 3 fixes. Please let us customise our players so we can have females on our like human and orc teams or whatever. But anyway, I do see a use for them, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's played the game knows this use. This isn't revolutionary. We've all seen it happen. Crowd surfing is a bitch, right? If a character has frenzy, chances are their kind of role is to crowd surf. Remember when I said they're a brutal team and they don't really like bash in an ordinary way? With the assassin and the witch elf, that's kind of what I was getting at. Because with the witch elf, all you have to do is push them out of bounds. So they're actually quite good against other agility teams like elves, which in the lore, the dark elves hate other elves, so it makes sense. They can push people out of bounds, so they're not really doing anything, they're just getting the crowd to beat them up. And more importantly, if they have dodge and they you get the defender stumbles, which means they don't get knocked down, it doesn't matter, because if they're near the edge you can just push them out of bounds and they still have to roll for armor. So yeah, they're good positional, with jump up and frenzy, and I believe block is the final one, something like that. They have the ability to be this kind of unorthodox thing, and it makes you very careful about being on the wings. As a catcher, having the usual tactic of put for like wood elves, whatever. When you're doing agility plays, put two people on either side, and then you can only blitz one. That one that they blitz is going to go down if it's a witch elf, because they're going to get pushed off the side. So be careful. If you've got people on the wings, by God, pray that they stay on the fucking wings and not in the crowd. Right? Generally, all I have to say for them. Overall, as a team, as I said, the worst of the elves in the rankings, but a good team, and it just kind of it's hard to explain really. They're elves. They're elves. They don't really excel in what elves are good at, which is elf bullshit and throwing the ball and getting these ludicrous plays. And it's like literally throwing the ball from like one side of the pitch to the other and scoring a touchdown. They don't excel at that because they don't have frozen catches. You can make them, but they don't have them to get. They go instead for more bashy kind of approaches, but they're not really good at it anyway. So as a team, they're alright, but I'd say generally there are better elves out there, but you know, play them. They're good. You'll see the next elves and why they're a bit better. So yeah, don't get too salty, please. I bet I'm going to get a lot of flack for, you know, putting these so, well, relatively low. Some people think this is the best team on the game, and I wouldn't say they're that wrong. I do think they're a fucking absolutely horrendous team to go up against with any of the lower teams. So yeah, the elf bullshit, you know, it's very hard to quantify. You know, you can't put a hard statistic on it. But if you're in a game against these, you know, you're going to be exposed to high amounts of elf bullshit. And I don't say that with salt, I say that with absolute amazement, because, you know, as a team, they're relatively balanced, and I like it. I like them. I played with them in an elf tournament, which was absolutely amazing, and an amazing experience. They're a good team, and fun and creative, and that's obviously the direction I want to go with Blood Bowl. Have everything be balanced and creative and fun. So yeah, this is, if we're going on that regard, and not just which is objectively the best, these probably are one of them, like the best team for fun and creativity and what I want more teams to be like. But you know, I'm done gushing. Right, let's just get to the positionals and we'll go for it. Lineman, all right. So just a lineman. Yada yada yada, something about the good old days of Blood Bowl. But they have movement allowance 7, so that's cool. You know, the whole part of the Wood Elves being the speedy, so they can, you know, do long passes by all means, but you can also run up the field with that amazing movement allowance pace, and then just throw the ball from there. And there's very little you can do about it apart from like marking catches and what have you. But yeah, linemen help with that because, you know, their high movement allowance makes it so that they can, you know, while they're not good at bashing, especially with low armor value, they can mark people a lot and get into those positions. That's really beneficial. So yeah, really, really good. You know, just standard lineman with a little bit of running. Alright, pretty good. Catches, alright. Dodge, sure feet, and catch. Alright. Beautiful combination, and especially it's did I say sure feet? I meant sprint if I said did, but that skill, you know, it makes sense on them. They don't have sure feet, you know, like the bull centaurs do, but they have sprint, so you can make the risk and go for those really fucking absurd plays where it's like, you know, I'm gonna go for a one-turn touchdown, even though that shouldn't really be possible. You know, but I'll just have it so that my catcher gets pushed up a square, and then, you know, he's within range to go for the line. I'm not big brain enough to go for those plays, never have been, never will, but it's possible with the catcher, you know, push him up one, go off sprint, and then, you know, going for it, so what have you. So for people who do that, I commend you. You're an amazing person, but I cannot. I'm too small brain. But still, long story short, catchers are amazing. Movement allowance 8 is amazing. Low strength in 2, but that's because if there was strength 3, it'd be fucking unbalanced. But yeah, they're catchers, but special and really good, and, you know, they make the team pretty good as a whole. Throwers. So this is just a pretty standard procedure thrower, but with elf shit. So path and bit of higher movement allowance. So nothing really much to say, it's the thrower, yeah. War Dancer, alright, so this is where the team gets spicy. So, you know, as I've said before, look, every team needs a blitzer with block. This is the thing where, you know, it's a bit ludicrous. So this team doesn't have a blitzer. Now usually I would be annoyed at that, but they have a War Dancer. Blodge off the gate and leap is absolute insanity, but it's balanced because low armor value. Low armor value in 7, so that's, you know, scary. That your blitzer and debatably the best player on the team, that's quite expensive, might I add, could just get absolutely stomped and then they're dead, and that's it. You have to buy another one. Scary prospect. but they are really good. With Leap and Blodge, they can just jump into a cage without the need to dodge, and then just attack the ball carrier for a 1-die. Or if they're lower strength, then a 2-die. So that's fucking terrifying. And it makes you have to play differently. Generally in high TV, you know, maybe, you know, you see a lot of Leap, you know, because people want to be able to do that, generally with agility teams. But here it is absurd, why that you can just get strip ball and wrestle on your War Dancer, and you've made it pretty much impossible for them to cage and keep that ball in their hands, right? So yeah, generally War Dancers are terrifying. Even if they look like pussies, they're not. They're absolute fucking mad lads, alright? So be scared. Treatment. Alright, so as I said before, usually elves shouldn't really have big guys, but in this instance, it's still pretty balanced for them to have one. It's kind of that contrast of the highest, you know, movement allowance in the game. I don't think they're the little highest, but generally as a collective, they're the highest, I suppose. Having one of the slowest big guy in the game, so it balances itself out. And I agree, and he has take root, so it's not only that he's slow, it's also that he may literally not be able to fucking move. And it makes sense because, you know, wood elves, trees, yeah, whatever. But I think they're pretty good because you can use them to have the line be defended, and, you know, on defense have it so that you're not vulnerable to attack as much, you know, so that you don't have to just place 3 linemen on the line and just pray that they don't die. You can have the tree be there with guard, and, you know, hope that they fucking survive and do something about it. Generally, the extraordinary skills are pretty bad. You know, obviously take root, and then I'm pretty sure that also means if you get knocked down, you have to roll and on 1 and 3. That's it. You're done. You can't get up. That's it. Or yeah, you can't get up. Or you can get up, but you can't think it. I don't know. But still, they're very immobile. So beware of that. I don't think they're the worst in the game, big guy, but they're definitely around that area. So yeah, overall they're pretty good in this instance for keeping it balanced, but I generally wouldn't put a lot of faith in them to do big plays. But then again, I suppose that's with every big guy, but this one in particular, with this low movement allowance, I wouldn't put any faith in them to do pretty much anything. Overall, as a team, as I said before, I want more teams like this that are fun and creative and viable. You know, this is what the Kislev want to be, essentially. But, you know, obviously they're human, so they can't have Edge 4 on everyone and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you know, hopefully we get a Kislev/Slan rework that makes them a bit more like this team, or at least takes notes from the Wood Elves and goes, alright, we'll humanise it and what have you. So yeah, as a team, very good. People saying they're the best in the game, they're not entirely wrong, but the rankings have spoken and they're not. So let's see what the next elf team has to say, and I will go through why I think they are better. Before you scoff and moan at me, alright, just let me explain myself, and then you can, you know, ramble in the comments. That's fine, alright? Alright, the Pro Elves are essentially a more rounded version of the Elves, you know? It's very hard to explain them because it's not like the Wood Elves where you can just say, oh, they have movement allowance and, you know, skills oriented at doing elf bullshit. It's not like the Dark Elves where it's like, oh, you know, you can do brutal shit and it's quite unorthodox, you know, in the Assassin and, you know, that kind of stuff. It's not like that. It's more just general elfiness with skills that you wouldn't really have as your first choice, but I do think help them a lot in the long run, and they are skills that really do help in the beginning for an elf team. And generally they're relatively inexpensive because they don't have like such a massive statistical thing like high movement allowance or like strength or armor or whatever you. So let's just go positional by positional, and I'll show you why what they have makes them such a good team. Lineman, okay, it's just an elf, but with like, you know, movement allowance 6, which kind of sucks, but it's fine. You know, armor value 7 is pretty low, but they're a lineman. You know, for this team, maybe it is a good idea to use them as just, you know, fodder, but they are still elves. They have agility 4, so you can do nuts shit with them, right? So, you know, with this, just do what you want. Again, yada yada yada. Good old days of being able to turn a lineman into anything. Just be careful, as I said, they've not got amazing stats, so maybe having a journeyman army isn't a bad idea here, but it's whatever. Again, it's a lineman, nothing really much to say. Catcher, alright, this is where the spiciness starts. So, just looking at the stats, right, let's ignore the skills for now, but looking at the stats, you have movement allowance 8, which is amazing, you know. Armor value 7, not amazing, but it's, you know, it's an elf team, it's fine. And strength 3, but it is a catcher. So this means that if they break open the cage and want to attack the ball carrier if you're using it as a catcher, then, you know, it's very difficult for them to do that because they're strength 3. And maybe you're not doing that, maybe you're going for the elf bullshit players, you know, 2 catchers either side, they can only blitz 1 but they can mark the other. Then it's strength 3, you know, he can bash his way out of those marking scenarios if, you know, the others get marked with proper teamwork and what have you. And speaking of if they get marked up, you know, and it's hard for them to get out, are they just surrounded by enemies and they're marked? Nerves of Steel. All of that doesn't matter for the catch. Alright, interception, you know, that might suck, you know, but you can get into a different position maybe, you know, from the thrower, throw it to them, and then it doesn't matter who's around them. They've got the fucking ball, and, you know, maybe they can dodge out of it, maybe not, but still. You know, if they can dodge out of it, that's just straight for the end zone and you've won, because they have movement allowance 8. So Nerves of Steel is really fucking good. Alright, maybe they don't have, you know, they don't have dodge off the get, alright, but you give them that and they are a catching machine. Again, the Nerves of Steel is something that I don't see used a lot, and I don't know why, because it's such a fucking good skill. You know, I used it on my Wood Elf team, and even though I was an incompetent as fuck coach, it got me wins. And for elves, it's something you should have on your fucking thrower, because then he can, you know, oh no, you need to throw the ball, but there's people around you, so your roll's gonna be shit. Not anymore. Bam, Nerves of Steel. Alright, the skill is amazing. Alright, is what I'm trying to say. Amazing positional. Maybe even the best catcher in the game. Who? Maybe not. Alright, but it's still pretty fucking good. Alright. Thrower, alright, coming back down to earth. Every positional can't be amazing, but it does the job. I'd like sure hands on them, but then again, that comes from someone who plays human, so I want sure hands on every fucking, you know, thrower. But they have pass, and, you know, movement allowance 6 sucks, you know, especially for those players where you want to get close to the catcher before you throw the ball. But what can you say? It's just a standard positional thrower, agility thrower. They do the job, right? Give them, you know, strong arm and a doubles maybe, and accurate, and you've got yourself a pretty good fucking thrower, alright? Blitzers, again, this is another spicy one, because they have agility thrower, you know, standard elf bullshittery, and, you know, but they have movement allowance 7 and armor value 8, so they can get hit, and you're not, you know, fearing for your life that, oh god, he's going to die, and he's, you know, pretty expensive. That's not really the case. It's just like dealing with another human player. You know, it's pretty. That's the, you know, the standard armor value, so you don't really have to worry that much. Sure, don't fucking throw them, you know, at a situation expecting them to survive every time. It's going to happen eventually. You know, you're going to need an apothecary for these kinds of situations, but generally they're good at bashing us with it, because, you know, you don't have to fear about them getting out bashed. The skills, like block, right? So Blitz with block, I'm happy. Me happy, good, right? But sidestep as well. This is fucking incredible, because that means you don't have to worry about getting surfed, right? That which is, you know, fucking amazing, right? And as a blitzer, you can just sidestep into a situation where you're really helpful and you're going to piss off the enemy, you know? You don't have to worry about getting put into situations like, oh no, my player's going to get pushed into this push and he's going to get put, and then this player's going to claws mighty blow him to death. No, that's not a problem. But you can also put them into situations that's going to piss off the enemy. Maybe you're marking the ball carrier or the catcher, and he tries to push you away, but you can just push into a position where you're still marking him. So yeah, sidestep is really fucking good. Again, it's kind of slept on skill, but it's not really slept on. You know, people still are aware of it, but not to this degree on a starting player. Only 4th positionals, so yeah, that's it. But still, that's kind of all you need, and it's relatively inexpensive because they don't have like a 5th player that's got like a guard and is strength 4 like a big guy or whatever. No, they just have the full starting elf shit, and it works, and so you don't need anything else. So yeah, overall as a team, I think that because of their all-roundedness, they just beat out the Wood Elf. Again, taking expenses into account, it's not about what happens on the pitch always, right? Just because you're going against them doesn't always mean that that's the end all and be all. It's about playing them and being in tournaments where it's not about this one game that matters. It's about the next game and the next game. With Wood Elves, let's say you've got your perfect team. That team may be fucking pretty good. It may be the literal perfect thing and most effective. But in the next game, you're going to have lost a load of players. So it's not going to be like that. With this team, that somewhat gets mitigated a bit because they're a little bit less expensive, so when you do lose players, it doesn't really matter. But still, they have armor value 8 on their blitzers, so that's also something to take into consideration. So yeah, they're not the best Delve team, that's to come later, but I think they're above the other 2 elves, and I think that they're a team that gets slept on too much. Hopefully my next ranking will be a little bit less controversial because now I'm fearing for my fucking life, but well, I'll have to see when we see her.